On this week's episode of That Sound podcast, we have familiar to some of you guys, the drum doctor, better known as Ross Garfield, or better known as the drum doctor. We have got one of the best sounding drum technicians ever. Ross, you've got a hell of a collection. You make drums absolutely sing, and you're part of history. Have supplied drums for some of the biggest albums ever to be recorded, and it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Well, I'm glad you're interested. I don't do a lot of podcasts. I'm usually working.
I figured, yeah, you're a working man, you're very busy. I know it's hard to get a hold of you, and I really appreciate you coming on for whatever length of time that you're fit to afford us today.
Sure. What
How have
what can
things
I?
been?
Uh, Things, it's always been up and down with my business, but right now we've been pretty busy this week. We've got a session going with Paul McCartney with Abe Laboriel Jr. playing drums that we set up and got them going. And then we were working with BTS for a few days at one of the better studios here in Los Angeles. And what else? I had a heavy metal project going with the producer Ulrich Wild. He used to work at One on One. I think he came in right at the end of the Metallica days over there at One on One. So lately it has been pretty good.
Very good. So things are looking up, things are keeping busy.
Yeah.
Ross, when you get a call, that's one of the questions I was going to ask you. When you get a call from a producer, do you have a couple of go-to kits in mind off the top of your head, or is it usually depending on what sound they're after or what band in particular?
Yeah, I have a lot of drums. So I have well over 400 sets of drums and probably close to 600 snares. So what I try to do is I try to make as good of use of the collection as I can. So when somebody calls me, I try to figure out what they're looking for, and I'll custom build a set specifically for that project. The figure out the right shelves, figure out the right heads. I usually bring at least three or four snares, so we always nail it. So they have some options, and a lot of times people won't know what they're looking for until they hear it in the song. So I tend to build especially if somebody gives me some time. I do get a fair amount of last minute calls where someone will say, "Hey, we need this tomorrow," and at that point, I'll see what I have ready to go. And at any given time, I have probably a dozen sets of drums ready to go.
That's a very interesting approach to how you work it. 400 kits and 600 snare drums. It sounds like heaven for most drummers. I'm sure a lot of people would like to get a tour of your warehouse, Ross, and see the inside of it and see what's rocking and rolling in there.
Yeah. Well, I'm walking through the warehouse now. Can you see it in
I
the?
I can. You got a nice setup. Two
Yeah.
sets, a couple of snares on the rack, more than a couple. Oh,
Yeah. So
nice. Is that a Sonar SQ2 I see?
I don't think so. Where do you
No, I
see
could be
that?
wrong. That or is it a DW, the exotic wood? That
On
looks
the on the
fabulous.
on the riser?
No, sorry, the other one to your right, but that one on the riser looks incredible.
Oh, this one here?
Yeah, that looks
Yeah, that's a
phenomenal.
that's a DW with
Look at
some
that baby.
yeah, it's pretty green on that
Yeah,
veneer, huh?
that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of a sucker for pretty wood grain. I really like the wood.
Yeah, I would be a man of similar taste for drums that are finished well, even guitars that are finished well, to the extent I found have always attracted my eye.
Great.
It's
Yeah.
it's
So
incredible to see a collection of that size, Ross, and I'm sure it didn't start out that way. So how did it start out for you?
it started when I got frustrated playing drums in bands. Um, I used to play in bands, and one band in particular, and we were together for 6 or 7 years, and we toured and made a record and all that stuff, but it never really panned out. So I moved to LA, and at that point, to pay the bills, I got a job being the repair guy in the drum department at a little drum shop here in Los Angeles. And at that point, I started repairing other people's stuff, and that just made my. I mean, I had some some skill to begin with, but by doing it, it really refined the skills, and uh, I was doing pretty good with that. And when I decided to go off and basically not try to play uh, with bands or on sessions anymore, um, it really took off. And at that point, I think I had 5 sets of drums, but it turns out I had really good taste in what I had because that was what people were looking for in the studios. So I started the shop with like a 69 set of Ludwigs, uh, several 1980, 80 or 81 Gretsch kits, and I built it up from there. And
Nice.
yeah, so the fact that I had good stuff,
Do you
uh,
still have those kits, Ross, by any
every one of
chance?
them, every one of
Awesome.
them.
That's incredible to be able to say that you have the ones that you started out with.
Here's a great story. I still have the set that my dad uh, helped me buy when I was 12.
Oh
So,
man.
so this is the set that I worked all summer and made enough money so that he said he'd match me dollar for dollar if I wanted to buy a drum set. He wasn't about to go out and buy it for me, but if I put in half, he said he'd put in the other half. So I saved my money and I got something good, and that was a '69 Ludwig Super Classic in sky blue pearl.
Oh, nice. Nice
And
finish.
yeah, and it was a real classic set. I had that set when I was playing with bands and touring. That was the set I used. And then once I realized what to do to a drum, I took that set apart and I just hot rodded it. I recut the edges and did all the little tricks to make it cool for the studio. And so so cut to about 10 years later, and at that point I probably had 200 sets, and I had my my online presence, and a band calls me up out of the blue. They said they want to rent that set, that my original set out of all the sets I had. They said we want that set, we want that 69 Ludwig, and we want to take it to St. Thomas, uh, the Virgin Islands. There's a
Yeah.
studio down there. And so they rented that set and they took it away for like 2 months. And when they brought it back, or when it was shipped back to me and I got the check, it was a pretty sizable check, rental for 2 months. So I called my dad and I said, "Hey, you want the money back that you put in for that for, for that set?" And he said no. He goes, because he was just happy that I was able to actually make a living with the drums. And they were, my parents were worried that I was going to, be homeless, basically.
I think most parents are still worried now. I couldn't imagine how much more worried they would have been back then without the presence of social media and without the instant connection of mobile phones.
Hmm.
I'm sure it was strange,
Yeah,
a different time.
yeah. I struck out on my own. I left my folks' house when I was 17. I took my drums and I moved up into the woods, and that was 74, 75. And all I did was practice the drums and go surfing up in Northern California. And one day I was practicing, and the band's manager was hiking behind my house, and I was way back in the woods. I was like, my nearest neighbor was like probably a half a mile away.
Okay.
And I mean, we were in the woods. We had deer and bear and raccoons and bobcats and all kinds of stuff up there. But this manager was hiking behind my house, and he heard me practicing. And when you're practicing, you don't hear anyone knocking on your door. So he waited till I stopped hitting the drums, and I heard him pounding on my door, and he asked me to come over and audition for the band. And and I joined the band. I wound up joining the band, and that was a lot of fun. When I was 20.
What was the name of the band that you joined?
It was a reggae band, and they were called Airhead.
Okay, very good.
And we were like, if the Grateful Dead played reggae all night long. That's kind of what we did. That was kind of our crowd, kind of the Grateful Dead kind of a crowd back in the mid '70s.
That was your gig.
It was fun. It was a fun time.
Awesome. Was that the band that you had played with for the 6 or 7 years and cut the
Yeah.
record with, Ross? Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it was a lot of fun. I mean, I didn't walk away with any money really, but had a lot of great experiences. It was a lot of fun.
I was gonna say a hell of a lot of an experience throughout those years and likely a lot of contacts made too for your business.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it
Maybe
helped.
not.
I don't think it helped this business. But just what really helped me for this business being in that situation was that I had always sort of leaned towards rock and funk, and I was kind of like a big fan of like Little Feat and you know that kind of band, like the Doobie Brothers, and that's kind of who I listened to and who I wanted to play like when I was before I joined this band. And by joining the reggae band, it really opened a whole new world of not only playing the drums and understanding the feel of reggae, because it's a different feel. And if you don't have the feel, you can play those parts and it just won't work. But a big part of it was learning how to tune the drums so that they sounded like a reggae set and not like, a Little Feat set or a Grateful Dead set playing reggae. So that's what really got me into tuning, and I started listening to especially anything that Bob Marley released. His drummer always had great sounds, but I listened to a lot of reggae, and Burning Spear and Peter Tosh, and I mean Bunny Wailer, and I mean just all kinds of. There's all kinds of great reggae out there.
So Carlton Barrett that played with Bob Marley would have been a big enough
Oh,
influence.
one of my favorites. One
Very,
of my
very
very
good.
Yeah, one of my very favorites. He was just an amazing drummer. I mean, nobody else played like Carlton Barrett, and nobody else sounded like him either. He really had a very unique sound, and that's what I look for in a drummer. It's really what really makes it cool for me is when I can hear a band and I can say, "Oh wow, you know, that's John Bonham playing. You can tell it's John Bonham playing, or that's Jim Keltner playing, or
Yes.
that's Jeff Porcaro playing, or uh, on down the line. The people who are, it's obvious that it's them. That's what really makes a great drummer, to my thinking.
They've got their own style going on. They're
Yeah,
unique. They're authentically themselves. They're not trying to
yeah,
be anybody else.
right. And it sets them apart. I mean, I work with Stevie Wonder. He's a great drummer. He has a very unique. I mean, when he's playing the drums on a song, it's him. It's it's cool that way.
That's cool. Yeah, I heard stories that Stevie was a brilliant multi-instrumentalist.
Oh my God. And one of the nicest people on the face of the earth. He's really a nice guy. Um, I've worked for him before where um, I'd bring in a set and be getting sounds for him. And then he'd show up to the session, a couple hours later, and he'd just come in the room and sit down and start jamming with me. So
Nice.
he wasn't, there's some people that are like, oh, I'm not gonna play with the drum tech. I'm gonna wait till the real drummer gets here. But Stevie came in, just sat down and started jamming, and it really shows what kind of a human being he is.
Seems to be genuine, real salt of the earth person.
Yeah, really, really a beautiful guy.
Ross, I'm just going to go back to what you said about learning how to tune the drums. And when you had said that you spent quite a bit of time learning how to tune them, especially in that reggae style, that they wouldn't sound like a rock set, so your set would sound more like reggae drums. And it just strikes me very interestingly, as you say, some people might say, "Oh, I'm going to wait till the real drummer gets here. I don't want to jam with the drum tech." I would find that almost insulting if you took it personally, considering you can make drums sound as good as they're gonna sound.
Yeah, well, a lot of times they might not have thought that,
Yeah,
but but a lot of times I'm working on the drums when everybody shows up. So I've been working a lot of times. I'll be in the room for 2 or 3 hours working with the engineer and maybe the producer to get the sound the way they want in the control room. So a lot of times I'm playing for 2 or 3 hours, and they're dialing it in and maybe making a suggestion, like maybe they want the snare drum higher or lower, or they want the toms deader, or they want more separation between the toms, or any number of suggestions. So I'll get it to a point where they're happy, at least for a starting point, and then maybe the band shows up, and or the bass player shows up, or whoever it is, and a lot of times they're saying, "Oh, you guys are working. We don't want to interrupt." So there's a fair amount of that, but there's other people that say, "Hey, someone's playing drums. I've got my bass. Let's
let's
go."
jam. Let's
Yeah,
work.
yeah.
What is your method, Ross? Do you follow a certain number of steps to get a good drum sound? What's your method for getting a good drum sound?
Um, well, I think that the real thing about getting a good drum sound is to understand what is the right instrument for the sound that the client is going for. And the analogy that I always give is, you're not going to get a great Led Zeppelin drum sound with a Ringo drum set, and vice versa. It's not really the right set for that song. So a big part of what I do is understand what each drum does, and from talking with the engineer, the producer, the artist, the drummer, whoever I'm in contact with, um, they can they can tell me over the phone what they're looking for, or text. But I always try to get them to send me a reference, like, hey, is there a song that you really like the drum sound on? Or maybe you send me a song that you really like the snare on one song, and maybe the toms on another, or something like that. So it gives me a frame of reference. And by doing it I mean, I've been doing this for 45 years at this point. So it really gives me like the spark, which set would be perfect for what they're doing. So that's the beginning. That's really how you get a good drum sound. Is you start with the right drum, then you figure out what are the right heads, um, and then and all down the line, the right hi-hats, right ride, the right crashes, um, the right amount of muffling on the drums. That's a big part of it too. There's really an art to muffling the drums, and because very few people will record a set of drums without some sort of dampening. You know, I mean, almost always on the kick drum, and then most of the time on everything else. And it's just a matter of how much and what materials you use. And don't even ask me about moon gels because I just, I don't use that. That's not in my toolbox.
That's not in your toolbox. Are you
No.
mostly in old school, the gaff tape road?
Uh-huh. Well,
I like
I was
that myself. I think it works very well.
yeah, I was tuning drums with gaff tape, masking tape, Kleenex, pillowcases, tea towels. I was doing that for probably 10 or 12 years when moon gels came out, you know. So I just feel like you know, they're for people who don't want to really experiment. It makes it easy, I guess, but I feel like they do one thing and I think it closes off options.
All very interesting points. Ross, I would love to see you do a course very similar to Bob Gatson's tuning video back in the day. I would love to see you walk through your setup of a kit and how you tune a kit and how you go about muffling it to get the desired sound, be it a Zeppelin sound, be it a Ringo sound, be it a Jim Keltner, Ry Cooder down in Hollywood sort of vibe, your more niche, different sounds.
Yeah,
That'd be
that's a
very
good reference.
that'd
That's
be
a really
very
good reference.
interesting.
Down in Hollywood, a great track.
Ah, great track. One of the best. Definitely one of the best. By
Yeah,
one of the best to pick up the sticks also.
and Keltner really had a chance to shine on that whole record. That was that was a really great vehicle for him.
Yeah, that track, Go On Home, the ghost notes in that are a real ass kicker.
Uh, Dude, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the album that he uses the bicycle bells on.
Really?
Yeah,
I
he
wasn't familiar with that fact.
yeah,
That's
he
unreal.
used to have, you know what a bicycle bell is, right? Where there's got like a
Yeah,
little
the
lever
ding
on this
ding.
side, right? So he had that mounted on his hi-hat stand, and and he got on that record. I think the record is "Bop Till You Drop,"
That's the
and
one
and I mean every drummer should own that record, and every guitarist too, for that matter.
for
Uh,
sure.
great bunch of recordings there.
Oh man, I could go on talking about Jim for days and his sounds, and he's a great example for a player who has played so many different sets, but is so versatile. A guy who could play a 20-inch bass drum, a guy who could play a 26, he can get it all.
Dude,
He can do it all.
he has like 12-inch bass drums back in his collection. He has bass drums. He has more different sizes of bass drums than anybody I know. I mean, he really experiments around. One of his favorite bass drums is I believe it's a 13-inch drum that DW made for him as a bass drum that has furry goat heads on front and back,
No
and
way.
he uses that on a lot of sessions. And
And
it's and,
is it one of length similar to Steve Jordan's? Do you know, nearly like a cannon, the way Steve is that sort of 12-inch bass drum that's very long?
yeah, it's on the long side.
Cool.
It's on the long side, but it's not like it looks more like it looks more like a bata than it does like a cannon bass drum. I mean,
Yeah,
it's only like maybe, it might be 13 by 13 or something. It's not that big. But and he has a 14 and he has a 15 and he has a 16 and he has an 18 and I mean he just has a lot. He experiments a lot.
That's awesome. Jim
And
is
and
such an
and working for
inspiration.
him and working for him. He's one of my oldest clients. I've been working for Jim for probably 40 years. Um, Working for him all these years, it really opened up my uh, mind to different drums and different sounds and uh, I mean when I first started, I wanted everything to be kind of fat and punchy, or that's kind of what people were asking for. But then I saw what Jim was doing, and Jim was going in a completely different direction. And by being on sessions with him and understanding where he wanted his drums tuned, it helped me become uh, a better tech all the way around.
I'm sure it did indeed, Ross. And when you had mentioned earlier that you look out for a drummer being themselves and being unique, where you can point the finger and say, "Oh, well, that is so and so on the record." I'm sure it's a case that no matter what you bring to Jim, he's going to make it sound like him.
Absolutely. No, he's I mean he is the ultimate sideman. I mean there's a reason why people like Bob Dylan and George Harrison and Randy Newman, and I mean the list is long. There's a reason why people want him there. He wants to be invisible. He's just there for the song. He's not there to. I mean, you're never going to see Jim Keltner play a drum solo. You know, he wants to be invisible. He just wants to put enough in to make the song cool. You know.
But if you put your hand into that pocket, you might fall into it. That's how deep it is.
Oh man, he's such a great guy too. He really is a good person. So
He
yeah, I
see
can't.
he seems to be very, very cool, and it seems to be something that I find is very common. A lot of those drummers who are ridiculously good, they seem to be really, really good people. Most of them, the greats.
Yeah, we won't talk about the ones who aren't nice.
Yeah, no, we don't like to talk about those. No, we won't
There's
give
a
them
there's
the
a few
airtime.
out there.
I'm sure there are, and I'm sure a man like you, Ross, has encountered plenty in your 40 plus years of supplying drums and
Let me just say this: I've worked for Ginger Baker,
well, you're still here to tell the story.
and it didn't come to fist fights. So
Let's
yeah,
just say you've got a good way with people.
yeah.
No, that's awesome. If we go on to talking then drums themselves in your collection, Ross, do you find yourself holding on to most of your drums, or are there any of them that you buy and sell or let go?
Um, Usually the sets that I sell are sets that I bought to sell.
Okay.
Um, there's a big, I mean, it's a big collection, and most of it is for the rental division of Drum Doctors. And I did buy along the way. I did buy a few things that I thought would be collectible investment grade drums. I have a little stash of uh, engraved Black Beauties from the 1920s
Very
that
nice.
that I bought along the way, and I just salted those away, and every once in a while I'll bring one out just to look at it.
Just to play around and see what they're like.
Yeah, yeah, and I have other drums that are the same shell, but they were nickel plated, and they sound about the same, um, but they're not nearly as pretty. And so I can, if somebody wants it, T-Bone Burnett, I used to send him some of the 1920s snares because they they really have uh, a old time sound. You hear one of those drums and it takes you back in time. And
You
he
think of
liked
the
that kind of
film
stuff.
reel, the black and white flickering, and
Yeah, it's they really have a character. So there are people that I bring some of the, the nickel plated drums out, because they sound great. They've got a cool sound, but they're playable. I can leave them on a session. I don't worry if somebody scratches them or something.
Cool, cool. Ross, have you any kits that are your favorites that you even like to tinker around with and play with yourself from time?
I have too many drums to have a favorite. It's like I have a different favorite like every day. That's kind
Okay,
of how I
yeah,
am.
yeah,
Um, lately I've been playing. The thing I've been playing the most is it's a Trixon kit with a conical bass drum.
very nice.
Actually, conical bass drum and conical tom. I think that's they call that the Telstar. So that's kind of what I've been tinkering with lately. But I go back and forth. It all depends on a big part of it depends on what projects are coming up. If I have uh, like a week's notice, say, I'll build a set for somebody and set it up and work on it and tune it and play on it before I take it to the session. And that way I know it's going to be, stellar once we take it out of the cases at the session. So depending on what people are looking for, that sort of dictates what I'm playing the week before.
Nice.
Yeah,
But
it's fun.
that's cool. That's cool that you get to spend a lot of time with the nice toys too. It's all a perk of
Yeah,
the job.
yeah, yeah, and
Ross,
it's that's one of the beauties of the job is that I'll get a phone. I'll be working on something like this last week. I was working. The people I was spending the most time with was this heavy metal band, and the drum sounds that we gave them that we got for them were very much like Metallica's Black Album. They were in that vein. So I was kind of doing that. Um, so it's like I say, it's different every week. So I'll be working on that, and then I'll get a phone call, and it'll be someone says, "Hey man, we want to do a thing next week, and we want it to sound like '60s soul, like James Brown, say." So then I'll build a set back here that's a James Brown's little set, and it's almost better that I was working on the Metallica sound last week, so that way my head is clear for like that James Brown thing. I'll listen to a couple of James Brown tracks and say, okay, let's use these drums for that and that snare and these hi-hats, that sort of thing. And it really cool to kind of go in different directions from time, from week to
nice.
week. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's great. You got a good old cleansing of the palate then too, that
exactly.
you're getting to indulge, what should I say, the dream of the ultimate musician where we all have a love for different genres. And it's a thing when people ask me, oh, well, like, what's on the playlist? And you're like, well, to the average Joe, there isn't really any one place. It could be Metallica in the morning, it could be Miles Davis by night.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, variety.
Ross, speaking of the Black Album, does that kit still be requested often?
Yes.
Very much so.
Hmm.
And I know you had done a feature in the Lawton audio video with the guys at One on One and some of the engineers. And just to clarify that the kick drums, I've always wondered, was the shell material Jasper or was it actually walnut? Or was it just a walnut finish?
Okay. They're Jasper shells. That's the manufacturer.
Yep.
They're maple shells
Okay, very good.
that are stained walnut.
Cool. Virgin kicks or with the
Yes.
mounts? Virgin
Yeah.
kicks.
That was one of the first sets. One of the first sets. When I started, I had a concept that I would that the sets would be uh, modular. So in the walnut finish, I have a 14 by 18 two 18 by 22s. Oh, a 14 by 20, two 18 by 22s, two 16 by 24s, which were the ones for Metallica. And I don't think I have a walnut 26, but like in the ebony finish with Gretsch, I have similar similar sizes, but I have a 26 in the ebony as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, the 26 doesn't get called for nearly as much as say a 22. But I had it modular so that if somebody wanted, and I had a bunch of toms, but if somebody wanted a set with two 22s from Gretsch, I could give them either the walnut set or the ebony set, or if they and with the corresponding toms, or if they wanted a kit with you know a 20, I could just give them the 20-inch kick with like a 12 and a 14 or whatever they wanted. So I kind of set it up that way with no mounts on the kick drums because when I started the concept, when I started the shop, I wanted everything to be off the kick drum because I felt that was the purest way to go.
For sure, for sure. The most resonance, the nicest amount
Mm.
of tone, nothing getting in the way, no foreign bodies.
Yeah. And nothing and nothing setting off each other.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Um, oh, there was something I was going to ask there. It just escapes me. I'm glad I got to ask that question. But oh yes, were you the man who was tasked with the job to find the similar kick drums then for Lars for Metallica HQ, or did they do that themselves?
Um, well, what I was involved with, uh, I believe I played a small part in Master of Puppets. I brought some drums over for that. I did the whole Black album, and then I did Load. Then after that, I don't think I've rented them drums. I've gone up to their studio in the Bay Area. They call that HQ.
Yes, there seems to be from some of the footage that I've watched of the making of the albums, they seem to have two Gretsch kick drums.
Are they
So
are they Gretsch? Are you sure
they
they're Gretsch?
they look to be Gretsch. They look like that lovely walnut or rosewood finish that you
Could be.
see make a really rare appearance from time.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Lars can buy whatever he wants. Um, but when I've worked with him since then, he's been using Tama. He's been using
Yes.
the Tama in the studio.
Yeah, I'm a massive Lars fan, but a massive Tama fan also.
Have
Um,
you seen Metallica lately on tour?
I had the pleasure of catching them last year in Madrid last July,
Oh,
and
that's cool.
it was very, very cool. I'm a massive fan of the yellow kit. I love it with the black hardware.
He's playing better than ever too.
For sure. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
really, really given it all. Um,
Yeah.
in recent pictures, he seems to be wearing a splint on one of his hands off the kit. I don't know
Uh,
what's going on there, but I hope Lars is all good.
yeah. Um, I didn't see it, but my son lives up in the Bay Area, and he just saw them like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he says it was a stellar show. He said
Yeah,
that Lars was really doing it.
that gig in Santa Clara looked
Yeah,
really good, and he's got a
yeah,
great tech working for him too. Jimmy Clark seems to be holding it down really, really solid for him.
good.
You got to set up five kits a night, one in the rehearsal room and four on the stage.
Wow,
That's a hell of a job.
that'll keep you busy.
Ross, when you were talking about having kits that are studio friendly, or if we're going to talk about kits that are studio friendly, for someone like myself who is looking to get into more of the remote recording business and go down that avenue, what would you recommend a player to have that is engineer friendly or that engineers would be fairly happy with?
I mean, there really is a lot of drums out there. There are a lot of drums that will sound good. A big part of it is tuning them. Um, so, I mean, whatever you have, I mean, if if I'm involved, I'll make whatever you have sound good. I know enough tricks to make even a cheap set sound good. But I mean, you certainly wouldn't do bad with a vintage set of Gretsch drums as your main kit. I tend to really like those. Uh, what's crazy is I still like the original stuff that I started the company with. So that's like 60s 60s through like 1972 Ludwig. Those shells are they have a character to themselves. And the 60s with the white interior have a much different character than the early 70s with the maple interiors. Um, but I still tend to like those sounds. Um, but that being said, there are some great sets out of if you found say if you found a late 40s or early 50s Leedy kit, that's almost always a great sounding set, as long as you get, the sizes you're after. Um, and then, the new stuff that's out there, um, I have kind of a unique relationship with DW, where I almost uh, as a rule, I don't order anything that's being made that the public buys. I always have them make me something special because they have the shell making machinery, so they can, I could say, well, try this, try, 3 plies of maple with interspersed with 3 plies of birch or whatever the concept is, and they can make it right there, and it's not like it's a big deal for them. So I tend to experiment, and I've come up with some really nice sounding shells that way.
Awesome. That's a great answer. And when you're talking about DW and the modern stuff, I had the pleasure of playing one of the DW stainless steel kits, and I think it is one of the coolest kits that I've ever played. Thunderous, really cool. I'm sure you probably have one of those in the arsenal somewhere.
I have a story about that. Um, I believe that they started doing the stainless steel kit after a session that I did with Abe Laboriel Jr. Abe was playing, the regular DW stuff but he used with McCartney. And we were on a session with Bob Rock producing, and Bob called me and said, he goes, yeah, bring Abe stuff, what he wants, but bring me something different. So to that session, I brought, it was a 1970s, probably early 70s Ludwig stainless steel kit.
Nice.
And and everybody in the room loved the set. And the next thing I know, Abe was talking to DW, and he got DW to build him the stainless steel kit. I think that was the beginning of their stainless steel drums.
Killer.
So yeah, so they're, and it's not like I'll get any credit for it, but I think that's how it went down.
That's how it all went down. Everyone was that impressed with the sound that you got out of the stainless steel tubs that Abe
Yeah,
was
yeah, they're nice.
getting. He was getting
Um,
on the DW.
uh, uh, I don't know if he's still doing it, but Ron Dunnett was making some stainless steel shells for Ludwig for a minute there, and he may still do it out of his own shop, but those drums are real nice too.
Yeah, I believe he had done that for, was it one of the commemorative releases maybe a couple of years back, 7 or 8 or 10 years ago?
Yeah, it was the Bonham sizes.
Yeah, they seem to be pretty rare. We don't see many of them pop up this side of the pond.
Where are you located?
I'm in Ireland, Ross.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
wow.
So
Okay.
quite a bit away, but if you're ever in town and want to go for a few pints of Guinness or need someone to show you around the spot, myself and Gavin would be glad to do
All
so.
right, cool. Great.
But yeah, no, that's awesome. If there were if there were five snare drums that you had to live with for the rest of your days for sessions and hire outs, what would you be thinking of? If
Well,
you can.
I just, are you familiar with the drum I just built, the T2?
So you are building your version and to the best of your ear and ability, the what should I say,
It's
the
it's basically,
reconstruction of the Tama Bell brass.
yeah. And and with the at the risk of sounding um, weird, for lack of a better word, that drum kills. The drum. I mean, I didn't know if it was going to when I started out on the path, but um, I have the I've had quite a few of the bell brasses over the years, and I still have the drum that Nirvana used on Nevermind, and um, I used that drum, which was actually that was the one that was nicknamed Terminator. Um, I took that drum to a guy who knew metal. We shot it with a spectroscope, I believe, and found out what the alloys were and what the recipe was of the alloy. And I will stack that drum up that I made against anything out there. That drum is, I've been taking it on sessions and it it definitely tunes uh, better on a broad range than even the old Tama bell brasses.
And they have a spectacular range too. I believe that's one of the things that people don't realize. And if you're saying that your drum, Ross, has a better tuning range, I really think that's something that people out there and consumers need to pay attention to.
Yeah, I wouldn't have released it. I see. I don't like to put anything out there. I don't want to do any work that isn't my best work. Like even if I get hired at a discounted rate on something, I still do my best work because I can't do it any other way. I can't say, oh, this guy's paying me less money, so I'm not gonna do his drums as good. I'm not that guy.
Well, it's
But
funny. I had a conversation with somebody this morning along the vein of, what is it? Do more than you're paid to do, and soon you'll
yeah,
be paid more to do less, sort of thing, or whatever they say in business. But
that's a good thing.
I can't say you're a testament to the latter end, but you showing up to do it your way and give it your best every time is definitely a testament to where you are and why you get the call.
Yeah, there's and it's a long story, but I was decent in the beginning because I had played drums and because especially because I had to learn how to retune them for that reggae band. And it really got me into tuning the drums in a different way that will give you a different flavor. Will bring out a different emotion when you hear them, which is a very vague thing for someone to try to understand. But that's what I was trying to do. And by doing that for so long, you really get to a point where once people started hiring me to tune the drums, that's when I really got good because now I'm working, you know, all day long, getting paid to do something that I was trying to get better at. So so if you can get to a point when whatever you want to do in life, where you can do what you want to do and get to a point where you're getting paid to do it, that's where I believe it all comes together because now you're getting paid to get better. And I mean, there was a run I went between like 1980 and I started the business in 81. By 85, I was rocking. I was doing Vinnie Colaiuta, Jeff Porcaro, Jim Keltner, um, Carlos Vega. I mean, and a lot of like bands who just had drummers, but I was working at least 80 hours a week tuning drums.
You were hitting the ground running.
Yeah, and sometimes over 100 hours a week for 15 years until 2000 when Napster showed up and it kind of rocked the boat a little. But by then, I mean, I was doing like, months where I didn't have any days off and I was working 80 or 100 hours a week tuning drums on sometimes 5 or 6 sessions a day. When you have that much work and there's that much scrutiny on what you're doing, it's kind of like swim or drown.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You just got to keep going. You can't, it's like, don't look down. Just
Yeah,
keep going.
yeah,
But back to the Terminator, um, Ross, talking about your drum, the T2. You were saying you shot that and found out the alloys and then you had it made. So
yeah.
you're
So
currently having those built, or do you have a few
I've
built that you're
I've
selling?
I've made 24 of them at this point. I've sold 21,
Okay.
and and I'm not really advertising them, but the people who like Abe Jr. Abe Laboriel Jr. was one of the first people. He saw it. He said, I love this drum. So he bought it. And then about a month later, he goes, I can't play anything else. I'm going to take it on tour with McCartney. And he goes, this is it. So the fact that, I mean, it's one thing for me to like it, but for somebody like Abe, I mean, Abe could be playing anything he wants, right? So for him to pay money for my drum and then tour with it, uh, says a lot. But everybody who's bought one has been like somebody like that, or a fair amount of producers have bought them, and engineers will buy one just so they have one cool snare drum that they can always uh, put up, in a pinch. But yeah, it's really taken off, and I'm very proud of it. I mean, if it wasn't great, I wouldn't be talking about it.
For sure, for sure. No, that's awesome that you took the initiative, Ross, to go and explore and figure out what was in the drum and what was behind it and have one made. And as you say, to your ear and to your standard. And for a guy who spent that amount of time during those years perfecting your craft, I can only imagine what talent lies within those ears for hearing the minute details.
Yeah, well, it definitely. Uh, I mean, when I first did the first prototype, I had this. I mean, I had an idea, and I did the first prototype, and at that point, I said to myself, "Well, I'm going to pay for this. I'm going to pay to have this prototype built, and if worse comes to worse, I have another snare drum." But everybody who heard it said, "Man, I want one." So I've been making them, and they've been flying.
What sizes have you made them in, Ross?
I started with the 6.5 by 14 to basically be just like, the same size as the original Tama Bell brass. Then I made quite a few 7 by 14s, just a little bit deeper, and that's what Abe has. Abe liked that size. Um, then I experimented with an 8 by 14.
Very
I made a
nice.
couple of those. Then I had a client who bought one of the 7 by 14s, and he said, I'd like to get something a little smaller. So I made a few 5.5 by 14s.
Nice.
And then I made two 4.5 by 12s.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's a whole nother register. And out of everything,
That's its own thing.
yeah, that's definitely a cool little drum. It's
Yeah.
probably the best soprano I've ever played. But out of all the drums that I've built, I kept I kept the original, the prototype. Six. That's a 6.5. I have an 8, and I have one of the 5.5s, and I have one of the 4.5s. So
Very nice.
that's a nice cross section of what those with the shells I built. So at this point, I've kept 4.
Did you stay true to the original Ross with die-cast hoops or
Yeah.
yep. And how did you go about sourcing the hardware?
Oh, I had somebody make
You had
a
somebody
lug.
make
Yeah, I
the
had somebody
lugs to
make a
your
custom
spec.
lug. Yeah,
Cool. Now
yeah.
that's awesome. I must check that out some more. Has anybody demoed the drum yet for YouTube or anything
Yeah,
like that?
there's a couple guys who are they're YouTubers, and they've been doing like like shootouts between my drum and an original bell brass, and I don't do that stuff. I feel that that kind of stuff is it's kind of bogus because you, when someone is doing one of these shootouts, it's usually it's like maybe it's one mic, or it's the mic in their phone. How are you really going to hear that drum in that situation? I mean, to do it the right way, you should have an engineer with, you know, probably, you know, a mic on top of the drum, a mic underneath the drum, and maybe a couple of overheads to really hear what the drum really does in a room,
For
or on
sure.
tape.
And all of those through some pre's as
Yeah,
well.
and again, it's like with me, I'm not gonna, I'm not the guy that's gonna push it out there and say, hey, I built the best drum or whatnot. I want other people to say that. I mean, it doesn't mean shit for me to say it's the best drum. It's other people who've had me build it. That's what means something.
Another great statement, when you're good, you tell other people and you do the talking, but when you're great, other people do the talking for you.
Yeah. Well, that's my whole thing is really uh, to stay busy is really what it is. I like working. Uh, I like when somebody calls me up and gives me a chance to show off what I can do because I've got chops.
Well, man, Ross, you can do it. That is for sure. And it's been an absolute pleasure. I know you like to keep busy, and I feel that it's been an honor that you've given me an hour of your time, so I don't want to take up any more of it. But
Well,
thank,
thanks for pushing me.
yeah, well,
You,
thank you for coming on,
well, my pleasure.
man. It's been a pleasure. We'll
All
chat
right.
soon.
All right. See you later.
Thank you.